Hello, hello, thanks for stopping by the channel. This is the Pinball Wizard for Windows PC, released by Frosty Pop, originally back in 2018 for mobile devices. This is a recent conversion of the game that's coming out shortly on Steam and Switch. Being upfront, I was actually given a free copy of this game on Steam to give it a play and write this review. There were no expectations as to what I wrote about, so this is all me. They were really just looking to get the word out that the new releases were coming in a week or so. So it's an interesting mix of genres. It's described as a cross between a dungeon crawler and a pinball game. I like dungeon crawlers and I like pinball games, so great, I'm on board. Although I have to say, I kind of always looked at these game types as being almost opposites, but they did manage to pull both of them together here in a pretty interesting way. There is a basic story to this game. Basically, the realm was peaceful, and there was this magic orb on the top of a tower on a little pedestal that kept everything safe. It fell off the pedestal, and now everything sort of became messy. So you are tasked with traversing the different levels of the tower just to get the orb and put it back on the pedestal. And you do this by basically playing through 21 different levels. It's a family-friendly game, and it's pretty accessible. You're not really rocketing around the table at crazy speeds, and there aren't a whole bunch of distractions or flashing lights to confuse things. With that being said, there are plenty of things you have to worry about and a lot of mechanics you have to pay attention to and get good at. I think the art style of the game is probably the best place to start. You're this little apprentice wizard running around, you got a big head, you got a little wizard hat on and a little staff, and you're going to be running around the various levels in basically a pinball fashion. In terms of art, there is definitely a specific color palette they're utilizing here, and it gives this sort of medieval appearance, some browns, some purples. Most colors are relatively muted. It's consistent, and I think it works just fine based on the subject. Now, if this were in outer space, maybe it wouldn't work like that so much, but hey, we're in a tower with monsters and a wizard, it definitely works. So you're this little avatar running around, and there are monsters in the tower, and they're more cartoony as opposed to scary. And it seems to fit the family aesthetic they're going for. As for design, we get 21 tables in the tower, and they all have the basic pinball parts you'd expect. You get flippers for each level, sometimes multiple sets of flippers actually, and sometimes there are actually different areas you can access. You're going to have moving obstacles, there'll be bumpers, just like you find on a regular pinball table, and there are also going to be monsters sort of bumbling around. You're going to get gelatinous cubes, spiders, and bats. To beat any given level, or stage, or pinball table, whatever you want to call it, you're going to need to find the key to open the door, and then you have to shoot your avatar into the open doorway. It's nice that you don't have to be a dead shot to get into the door either. You really just need to get your guy right in front of it, and then he'll take the hint, probably turn around and walk on inside. To get the key to the level, you're going to have to defeat a bunch of monsters, sometimes all the monsters on the level. And monsters, just like you, are going to have hit points. Every time you bump into them, it's going to take some damage, and when you bump into them enough, you're going to kill them. And when you get enough of them defeated, you're going to get that key. Just grab that key and you'll watch the door open. Now when you bump into a monster, you can also take damage depending on the circumstance. The gelatinous cubes might get mad at you, and if they are, then when you bump into them, you'll take some damage. If you take too much damage, you will die. You'll just flop over on the table. So now you can die by running into monsters. You can also, like a pinball, you can drop off the table. You go through the flippers at the bottom of the table, and you're done. Or you can possibly bounce out off of the playing field as well. That happens sometimes. For the most part, it's going to be similar to a regular pinball game. Now, you can get more health as you bounce around the table. There are things you can bump into, but basically you're going to have to worry about these other elements compared to a regular pinball game. It's just a little different. You're also going to have energy, you got hit points like I said, and as you play, you're also going to unlock different skills that will actually change the gameplay dynamics as you move forward. I think the skills are the thing that I find the most interesting about this game. I wasn't expecting it, and you can unlock and upgrade them as you go, so the more you play, the more you're going to unlock, and it does change the way the game feels. By the time I got to the 21st level of the tower, I'd unlocked about half of the skills, and I managed to upgrade some of them just a little. Now, what are these skills exactly? Well, the initial skills you get, I think the first 2 or 3, out of that initial few, there are 2 that are really useful. One, you have this ability to suddenly launch yourself off in a specific direction. which is sort of something you can do at any point, which is actually really useful. You can also cast an energy orb, which is actually an offensive weapon that's really useful against creatures. Both of these abilities have to charge, but running around and being able to suddenly change your direction is great. You just press a button on the keyboard or a gamepad if you're using that. It can save you from dropping off the table. It can let you attack a specific creature, or it can even be used to get you to a different section of the table, all of which are pretty useful. Now, the energy orb recharges pretty fast, and it's really useful to dispatch creatures from a distance. Usually a mix of attacking them and bouncing off them is what I do to kill most things quickest. You'd think that shooting an energy orb in the middle of the game might really be distracting, but it's really not that bad. When you try to trigger it, the gameplay actually slows the bullet time, and you have to aim where you want to shoot. It makes it a little easier to use when things slow down. You can also upgrade this power blast, or ball really, to last longer, and when it lasts longer, it kind of becomes like a multi-ball on the table. It's pretty clever, and it's actually pretty useful. Now, I would be bummed if this game was just 21 levels in the tower, because I got through these 21 levels in 3 to 4 hours of gameplay. Unlike a regular pinball game, the goal here is to get through the tables, or the levels, and move on to the next one. And for these 21 tables, for the most part, that isn't too hard of a task. Although, the last 2 or 3 levels did take a little bit more doing to get through. But in addition to these 21 tables, you do unlock other game modes. First, you get the daily dungeon. I imagine this is the thing that kind of harkens back to the original mobile release. They swap out a new table every day. Now, I'm kind of on the fence with this daily dungeon concept. I do see how it works with certain mobile games when they do stuff like this, but my experience with those types of games are usually predatory games. Well, this one's now a game on Steam or Switch. I don't know. They're not using the same practices, they're just giving you a new table every day, but I kind of would have thought there was a bigger benefit to just having all those tables already available to play in-game. As it is now, I have 21 tower tables available to play, 2 endless dungeons, and 1 daily table. So maybe 23 tables would be considered a lot on paper if this was an actual video pinball game, but it's a different type of game, and these levels, or tables, they're much smaller, and you can get through some of them pretty quickly. So, for me anyway, after beating the first 21 tables, I really haven't had much interest to go back to them. So, I've been playing basically these endless dungeons and the daily tables mostly. You know, I don't know. I guess for me, it just would have felt a little bigger if these daily tables were included from the start. Now, I do think some minor additions might be helpful if they keep evolving this over time. Right now there are only 4 monsters currently running through the levels. I don't know, maybe getting a little more variety in here would help this be a little more exciting. Even if you just changed up the colors of some of the monsters, that might work better too. Also, we're going up a tower. I think we could get some traction if you were going down into a dungeon. You could darken some colors, add some new enemies or traps maybe make it look a little more macabre. Just a thought, if they keep building this, who knows. There is an endless dungeon option like I mentioned, and there are currently 2 of them, and these are tables that just keep going. This is what really feels more like standard pinball play. You're kind of bouncing around looking to get a high score. These are actually pretty fun, and you have to do your best to try to get your guy shot into these different zones of the table, and they're usually to the left or right, which is not something you usually do in regular pinball. Usually you're going upwards. Well, here it's different, and making your way to those different corners, that's kind of interesting. There are high scores on this, and there is a leaderboard on the internet, and based on what's actually out there now, there are some really skilled players out there. As far as replayability, it's basically pinball and it's fun, so it's all about repeat plays and how long you can stay alive and advance your score. Naturally, the more you play, the more experience you're going to gather, which will level up your character, and you can buy more upgrades to your skills. I'm about 6.5 hours into this one so far, and I'm working to unlock the remaining couple of skills. I think I got 4 or 5 left. I'm really interested to know what these other skills are. I know I could go online and search for these and figure what they are, but where's the fun in that? I played this game also both on a Surface tablet and a laptop, and they both seem to work really good. So I'm always happy when I get games that work on a Surface tablet because it's so portable. On Steam, this one works with both a keyboard and a gamepad. Personally, I find the gamepad way better to control. It's just more comfortable than hitting a couple of keys on a keyboard for me. I also think this would probably be pretty nice playing it on a Steam Deck or on the Switch because they have the controller integrated into the system. That's pretty useful. Well, that's all I have today for the Pinball Wizard for Windows PC. If this is your type of video, please feel free to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And thanks for stopping by to take a look. Hope to catch you on another video.